Just hours away from the Nobel Peace Prize being announced, and tonight the question is simple: will it be Donald Trump? Because the president has declared finally peace in the Middle East as a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas takes hold, with hostages, hallelujah, being freed early next week.
Last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be.
Our own Prime Minister, the great noble Sir Keir Starmer, very high grade, was heaping praise on President Trump during his visit to India.
My thanks to President Trump for his leadership on this, to the Qataris, to Egypt and Turkey, who've done really important work in the negotiations.
He did refuse to say, by the way, whether he thinks President Trump should be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He wouldn't commit to it. But elsewhere in Israel, a farmer's ploughed his field with the inscription "Nobel for Trump" following the announcement of the deal. And scenes of absolute jubilation filled the streets of Khan Yunis in the Gaza Strip. There are the scenes on your TV now if you're watching on television. And the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has also called on President Trump to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. That was on a post on his official X account. So in less than 5 hours' time, could President Trump be waking up as a Nobel Peace Prize winner? He wants it, of course, and tonight he said that President Obama got a Peace Prize and he didn't even do anything to win it. But the bigger question tonight is, will peace in the Middle East actually last? Because even as the ink dries tonight, peace may already be unravelling. A senior Hamas official has, within the past few moments, flat out rejected Tony Blair's role in Trump's so-called Board of Peace to oversee Gaza's post-war administration. So even the sick death cult terrorist nutjobs at Hamas want nothing to do with Tony Blair. Let's get the views of human rights activist Peter Tatchell now, who joins me live from the UK. Peter, good evening. Should President Trump be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize? It could come in a matter of hours.
I think it is a bit premature, although you're right, President Trump, together with leaders of Arab states like Qatar, did play a collective role which brought us this deal. I think moving forward, we have to say, well, you don't really or shouldn't really get a Nobel Prize for one single act, which is just beginning, and we don't know where it's going to end up. It may well unravel. I think it's premature to say.
Well, he said he solved 8 wars, including this, Peter. Sorry to interrupt. He said it would have been 8 wars solved, concluded, including this one, and he reckons Ukraine, Russia will be next.
Well, if he was able to pull off a ceasefire and a resolution in Ukraine and Russia, that would definitely deserve him to get the Nobel Peace Prize. You know, I disagree with him.
Not the first
but I respect the fact that he has played a role in securing one big deal, and let's get him let's get the next one in Ukraine, and then I think we can definitely think seriously about supporting him for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay, but Peter, it would be number 8. So you had India, Pakistan, Trump solved it. Congo against Rwanda, Cambodia and Thailand, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan. It goes on and on. I mean, so it's not just the big one in the Middle East. You could argue it's the biggest of all, but it's a litany. You still wouldn't suggest President Trump has a Nobel Peace Prize for that. I mean, as Trump said tonight, Obama got one for doing nothing. Can you tell me what Obama got one for?
Well, no, and I didn't agree with Obama getting the Nobel Peace Prize. You know, he had, as you said, he hadn't done anything. But going back to the situation with Trump, I mean, you know, I'm prepared to give him credit. Yeah, absolutely, and I think also should be shared, as I said, with Qatar and other Arab states that played a role as well. But in terms of actually getting over that hurdle, we don't know how successful this ceasefire deal is going to be. Hopefully it will, and we don't know what's going to come after that. So I think I would say, with dignity, President Trump should perhaps wait till next year and then hopefully get the crowning glory of proving this one successful, but also getting a ceasefire deal done in Ukraine as well.
Okay, you've got a very high bar, Peter Tatchell, very high bar. Thank you for your company tonight, really appreciate it, and we'll catch up soon. Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GBNews discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today. Let's bring in my panel now tonight, the foreign correspondent Sara Firth and the former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Good evening to you both. Thank you for your company. Sarah, ladies first. Should President Trump, it's going to be announced in a few hours, the Nobel Peace Prize winner. Should it be President Trump?
Well, look, I agree with what Peter Tatchell said in that it's possibly a little premature when we're talking about this current ceasefire deal, right? It's the first phase that's been agreed that President Trump announced. It's very fragile. It's a fragile moment. So I think it's a difficult moment to talk about sort of peace prizes when we're not close to peace yet. We're just on the very first step towards progress with this first phase. President Trump himself, he's going to the Middle East. You know, we heard in the cabinet meeting today, Ben, in the White House, just heaps of praise from his cabinet, right? The Secretary of State just talking about one day perhaps we'll hear the full story about what actually happened in the lead up to this. There is no question the name on everyone's lips today in Israel, in Gaza and around the world is President Trump. But when it comes to peace prizes, it's a little bit too early.
Okay, well, what about the 7 other wars he solved, the ones I partly listed off to Peter Tatchell there?
I think we get through this one and maybe we can talk about it again.
Okay. Niall, Hamas tonight have said Tony Blair shouldn't be anywhere near post-war Gaza. I mean, coming from Hamas, I mean, that's some statement. Also, do you think, just on the previous point, do you think President Trump should be awarded the Peace Prize?
Absolutely, yes. I think that President Trump thoroughly deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Barack Obama, of course, thoroughly did not deserve.
Do you know what he got his for?
I can't even remember what he got the award for. Absolutely nothing.
Well, it was more for rhetoric. It was more for his.
It was for empty, flowery rhetoric.
I mean, he dropped more bombs on the Middle East than any other president combined.
Yeah, I don't think Obama did anything at all to advance the cause of peace. President Trump has a clear track record of successes. And you read them all out earlier, actually, including averting potential war between India and Pakistan, which is that was a major achievement. And I do think the president should be fully recognised here. He deserves a Nobel Peace Prize far more than anyone else in recent years, frankly, and he would be a highly worthy recipient. 100% right, I think, to award him the Nobel Peace Prize.
Do you know, Trump's been so focused on it, though. I was talking to some journalists today and we were saying you kind of almost need him to keep that obsession going for another year so that he solves even more wars around the world with the aim of the
That's what Peter Tatchell was just saying, yeah. Sarah, where does Keir Starmer and the UK, what role have we had in all this? I mean, does Keir Starmer, has he been made to look a little bit stupid off the back of this? Because A, he recognised Palestine as a state when Trump left, just seconds afterwards. And I just can't see what we've done to help things, or what Keir Starmer's done at least to help things.
I think that's a fair criticism, and I think Starmer has, come in for a lot of criticism for just doing too little, too late, frankly. As for the UK's involvement, that they got on board with recognising Palestinian statehood, I think it's very difficult now with this conversation around Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister, and his potential role. Look, I was Middle East correspondent for so many years. Just every country, Ben, that you go to, he is despised by so many people. Just
really?
The legacy of the Iraq War runs so deep. That was based on faulty intelligence that he pushed, and there was so many dead as a result of that. So to even suggest that he could have a role, for all his diplomatic chops in coming in and sort of a post-war Gaza peace, I think is pretty ludicrous.
Do you think he's arrogant, Niall, Tony Blair? Do you think he's arrogant in even being willing to come and take this position up? I mean, as Sarah said, you were an international correspondent in the Middle East for many years. Can you think of any country or group of people who would support him?
No, I mean, the Americans, unfortunately, seem to like him a lot. Have you ever met him?
I do think, yes, I have. I have met
What's he like in person?
And he's a very charming figure, certainly. But yes, he's arrogant, and he's got a lot of things wrong, including Brexit, I might add. Actually, he was disastrously wrong, I think, in his widespread support for the European Union, and he should be held to account over that. And on the issue of Keir Starmer and his involvement, I think Starmer's been absolutely useless and counterproductive. And his call to recognise a Palestinian state is exactly what Hamas wanted. That didn't help at all. I know in the White House they were not impressed at all by Starmer's intervention alongside Emmanuel Macron, whose own government is collapsing.
Yeah.
And so you have the two weakest leaders in Europe, Starmer and Macron, trotting out their support for a Palestinian state, actually undermining President Trump. So they did nothing at all, in fact, to support this peace deal. They've been hugely counterproductive.
Yeah.
And I have to say, he's completely useless on the world stage overall. I mean,
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, Starmer's in India. Keir Starmer's in India right now, and I was watching GBNews earlier. Catherine Forster, our political correspondent, she asked him a question and said, "Look, you are so revered in India, and when you go abroad, you seem to be sort of up there on the international stage, but domestically at home, it's the complete opposite." As she was saying, in India, there was massive billboards with Keir Starmer's face everywhere, his face sort of adorning all the streets and so on.
Frightening, actually.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a question, and that's come back into my mind. When you worked for Margaret Thatcher, your old boss, what was the situation like in the Middle East then between Palestine and Israel? Gaza and Israel?
So I did actually work for her after she was Prime Minister.
Right.
But of course, a time of tremendous tensions. She was somebody who strongly supported, of course, Israel and Israel's right to defend itself. And I think today she would be giving her 100% support, of course, to the Israelis as they fight bravely against not only Hamas but a whole host of Iranian-backed terrorist organizations.
Yeah. The reason I ask, Sarah, is because I just wonder, look, this is a momentous occasion, a big day. I just wonder whether it will be the last of it. In 10 years, 15 years, are we going to sort of renew hostilities?
I mean, look, this whole moment came about, and again at the cabinet meeting earlier, we heard the Secretary of State alluding to some of these critical moments leading up to where we are now. So you had Netanyahu's miscalculation, I think a lot of people would agree in political circles, carrying out the attack in Qatar. Then you had the UN General Assembly, and you had President Trump really getting together the Muslim majority and Arab nations and he managed, Trump himself personally, to apply pressure to Netanyahu to bring about what is no question a historic moment. Can that pressure be sustained into the future? Can we see the first phase lead to a second phase? I think right now everyone's just super worried and focused on getting the hostages home, getting the IDF withdrawn to those lines agreed, and seeing where we can go from there.
Yeah, and I guess the other big question, which we can maybe discuss later, is will there be a need ever again for these pro-Palestine marches on the streets of London, New York? I was out the other day. If the killing has ended, the civilians and the children and babies won't be slaughtered anymore on both sides, will there be a need for these protests?
Ghastly protests. I argue
they'll probably still do them, because actually it's not not about ending the killing. It's probably about something else.
Because they're a nasty, malevolent bunch. They'll still be out on the streets.
Yeah, well, there was a guy in New York the other night. I was there. We had the clip. He was waving a Hamas flag. So yeah, there we go. Earlier today, outside the White House, I was doing some live reports into Martin Daubney's show and so on. And standing on the sidelines were an Israeli family who were on holiday in Washington DC. Two of the sons were in the IDF. I spoke to one of them and asked for their reaction about President Trump's impending peace deal.
Mostly it means for me that my brothers and my sister coming back home. I don't look at it like what my job gonna be like. I look at it like I'm my brothers and sister coming back home. And for me, I don't look at it personally. I look at my country right now. We're very divided. It's not gonna be like that anymore. And at the moment, I think that because of the hostages coming home and because the war is about to end, it's going to make my life just better. Not because I'm joining the army, just because it ends.
Yeah, the hostages are back. You mentioned about the division in Israel. What is that division? Is it about the approach Netanyahu has taken to end the war and get the hostages back? Is that what it's about?
It's about many things, but mostly it's about how the war should end. Should we give them what they want, or should we fight back and comparate an aggressive military defense? But in my opinion, the thing that mostly divides Israel right now is how to end this war. And in my opinion, President Trump's plan to end the war is the right one.
That lad there was signing up to the IDF. He's been this conscription in Israel. He's signing up for the first time in December, so in a couple of months. And I said to him, Niall, are you feeling quite relieved that the war has ended just before you sign up? And he said, well, the biggest thing for me is that my brother and sister, who had previously served in the IDF, have come home in one piece. What is the future like now for Netanyahu, do you think, in Israel? Because the young lad there said the country is so split on Netanyahu.
Yeah, no, I think, firstly, I think Netanyahu has been outstanding, actually, in fighting Hamas, defeating Hamas, and also defeating all of the Iranian-backed terror organizations, Hezbollah as well, taking on the Houthis also. So I think Netanyahu deserves a great deal of credit, actually, and I think he can emerge even stronger as a result of this. And also, Netanyahu is a very popular figure among US conservatives, actually. There's very strong support for the role that he has played. He has had a very robust relationship with President Trump, some disagreements at various times, but overall a very close-knit partnership, which has made this peace deal possible. So he deserves a lot of credit here.
But Sarah, of course, there is still international arrest warrants out for Netanyahu, so I wonder what's going to happen with that.
That interview, Ben, honestly was phenomenal. It's just such an insight and a reminder, I think, of this moment, the stakes of this, the human lives that on both sides are involved. And I think everyone tonight, we've watched some of the scenes play out in Gaza and in Israel, the families of the hostages. He was talking about his brother and sister coming home in one piece. That's really, I think, front and center of people's minds. 2 years of this devastating war, and now all sides looking at a potential of a tomorrow where airstrikes, funerals, that horrible fear for the hostage families about whether their loved ones are alive, where that could potentially be over. So the stakes couldn't be higher. And you really captured it there at the heart of this. It's a very human story.
Yeah, no, well said.